Hi everyone, and welcome to the Shickluna Shipyard Lab. My name is Emily, and I'm a research assistant for the project, where my job has been to complete the paper catalog and input this data into our digital catalog for the 2022 field season. Some of the steps involved in this process can be challenging, but with this tutorial, hopefully it can make the process easier and more fun while also teaching you the importance of cataloging and record keeping. When artifacts come into the Shickluna Lab, one of the most important things we have to remember is that each artifact has a corresponding tag. This tag, explained more in detail later, contains vital information on the artifact that provides context to its discovery. Throughout the process of washing, cleaning, sorting, and cataloging artifacts, you must always duplicate this tag and ensure it remains with the artifact. With that in mind, we will be going over the lab process, beginning with a brief overview of the washing and/or brushing of artifacts, because I know Dr. Monk went through this with you already. Then we will go over the tag information and what it means, along with the paper cataloging and e-cataloging or digitization, and lastly, why record keeping is extremely important in any archaeological project. The first thing we do when an artifact comes into the lab is we sort, brush, and/or wash each one following the washing chart. As you can see here, there are 3 headings: don't wash, dry brush, and wet brush. You never wash things like bone, charcoal, and wood, for example, as it can ruin the artifact. Instead, you take your toothbrush and gently dry brush the artifact, making sure to take off any excess dirt. With artifacts like glass and ceramics, for example, washing is generally safe and aids our identification of patterns, embossing, and maker's marks. When you wash an artifact, you dip your toothbrush into a bucket of room temperature water and gently brush the object. Never fully submerge the artifact in water. Place the artifacts on a lunch tray lined with paper towel to dry, even the ones that were just brushed, like you see here in these pictures. Notice that each lunch tray has a corresponding tag clip to it. Like I said earlier, remember to always duplicate tags and ensure they always remain with the artifact. After everything is dried and brushed, we need to further sort them into artifact groups and make tags for each one so we can bag them and put them into their appropriate box. This is an extremely important step as the tag holds vital information about the artifact, such as the date of excavation and from which operation area and context it came from. The provenance of an object allows archaeologists to reconstruct an archaeological site based on where an artifact was deposited or disposed within the site. This is extremely important information as it can help contribute to the overall understanding of a site's social organization, how it relates to other artifacts and its proximity, which can help us to uncover the bigger picture of the operation area or site as a whole. Let's go through what the information on a tag means. The first thing you see on a tag is something that never changes during this project: AGGT268, as this is the official designation for the site. This follows the Borden system, which is an archaeological numbering system used throughout Canada to track archaeological sites and the artifacts that come from them. The 4 letters AGGT represent the geographical location of the site, the Borden block. The number, in this case 268, is based on how many known sites there are in this block. The Borden system divides Canada into grid blocks based on latitude and longitude. Major blocks are 2 degrees latitude by 4 degrees longitude and are represented by the capital letters in the designation. These blocks are further divided into 10-foot minor blocks and are represented by the lowercase letters. Below the Borden number, you will see from what operation area the artifact or artifacts were found in. An operation area is an area of excavation. On the Shickluna site, we have Operation Area 1, which was the living quarters, and Operation Area 3, which was the boathouse. We see here OA3, which is Operation Area 3. Beside this, we see what context it comes from. Context refers to all the information associated to, in this case, the artifact, which includes the provenance, the environment it was found in, and its association with surrounding features and artifacts. As we dug deeper, we numbered the context layers, With our first field season in 2019, we began with C1, context 1, all the way to C15, our oldest and deepest context layer, where we ended our 2022 season. Here, you see C12 is written for this example, which means context 12. Below this is the date the artifact was excavated, and then below that, the identifying artifact, along with how many there are, which in this case, 1. Lastly, leave the catalog number blank for now, as this will be filled out later. Identifying an artifact can be tricky, especially if you're not too sure what you're even looking at. Now let's try to identify some artifacts. We should first identify what material it is. It's heavy and obviously metal, but beyond that, it's impossible to determine. For something like this, you would write the material of the artifact, in this case metal, and then fragment. So this artifact identification would be metal fragment. You would then write the number of artifacts. In this case, there's only 1. Remember not to put any other details on the tag. We like it brief and concise, and nothing else on the tag but the most vital information. Let's try to identify another artifact. When you are 100% sure about the identification of an artifact, you can identify it as such. So here you wouldn't write metal fragment, but instead, bicycle pedal. If you're unsure of the identity of an object, don't be afraid to ask. After you have washed, sorted, tagged, and bagged your artifacts, it's time to write a more detailed description of your artifacts on the cataloging sheet. Archaeological projects often use a combination of artifact reference manuals and data dictionary sheets to provide guidance on completing the catalog sheet. The columns listed on one such data dictionary used in the Shickluna Lab are the material section shown here, where you identify what the artifact is made of. Ferrous, for example, is any metal like iron and steel, while non-ferrous are metals like tin, lead, zinc, aluminum, etc. Composite would be a combination of two materials, while organic would be things like peach pits, seeds, and nuts. If you don't see your material listed, you would write other. The next important section on this sheet is the class section. Class, meaning classification, indicates more of what the artifact is and what it was used for. For example, artifacts falling under the food and beverage classification would be things like bottle glass, soda cans, and dinnerware, while architectural would be something like bricks, mortar, concrete, tile, and roofing shingles. Once you paper catalog your collection, you then enter all the information on the computer in your e-catalog. It's important to create paper catalogs first as fail-safes if the digital information were to accidentally be erased. Additionally, they are an extremely useful reference to the artifacts in the boxes themselves when trying to locate a specific artifact or a specific piece of information on it, but we will get to that a little later. This is a picture of what our paper catalog looks like. Now let's try to figure out and catalog an artifact together on our sheet. One of my favorite artifacts is this doll neck. The image on the left is when we first discovered it in the field, and the picture beside it is when it got to the lab. Remember, the information for the first few sections on the cataloging sheet can be found on the tag. So first, we would copy the tag information and write 3 for Operation Area 3 and 12 for Context 12. Again, you would skip the catalog number since it will be filled out when it is transferred to our digital catalog. Number means how many pieces of artifacts there are. In this case, there are 3 of the doll. We would then determine what material it is. We identified this item as bisque porcelain, which along with any fine china, ironstone, and stoneware is cataloged as ceramic as its material. In this case, class would be personal, as it's essentially a toy. You would then look at the tag and write the identification of the object under the object heading, which would be bisque porcelain sherds. When there are more than one of any type of ceramics, you wouldn't write pieces or fragments, but sherds. Now this is where cataloging can get a bit tricky, but more interesting. Initial online research of AM Germany revealed that AM stood for Armand Marseille, a German doll manufacturer. Under datable attribute, we would write Armand Marseille, because with this information, we can date the artifact from 1865 to 1930, the time in which this company was active. Decor color would be light pink. Comments is a very important section where every little detail counts. For this artifact, I wrote doll neck / head shirts, part of Armand Marseille's Dream Baby collection. Etsy and eBay is great for finding out information like this. I then wrote the inscription, AM Germany 35 !8. Third number illegible as there is a hole punched through it. Probably either 351 or 352. Whenever there is an inscription, remember to always write it out in full if you can. For many artifacts like ceramics and glass, it's important to measure thickness, while for brick, it's important to measure any intact sections, length, width, and/or height as well. This is what your entry for the bisque porcelain sherds would look like in full. And depending on the recording strategy, you would create a section, like on the far end here, with the excavation date at the end, which in this case is August 18th, 2022. After the paper cataloging is completed for all artifacts and ecofacts, ecofacts are natural objects not altered by humans, but which could indicate human occupation, that were excavated during the field season, we then digitize the catalog using Microsoft Access. You see here, it's an exact replica of the paper catalog. While digitizing the collection, you finally get to fill out the catalog number, which is used to locate specific artifacts within the digital catalog. You would look to see what catalog number the digital catalog left off on and designate accordingly. You would then take out the tag, and in this case, write 1819 on the top right corner, as well as on the paper sheet itself. Some important things to remember about digitizing information is to first always check and recheck the data you are entering to make sure everything is correct. Consistency is key in cataloging, and there must be no spelling mistakes or inconsistencies in the data, as it can prevent us from locating the correct information. For example, if you were looking for specific artifacts, and in particular baking beans, for example, you would filter your search to a specific word. I would go into Object and click the arrow, which would bring me to this menu. I would click Text Filters, then Contains, and then type what I'm looking for, which in this case is a baking bean. All of the baking beans or specific object or objects you are looking for will then pop up. However, if there is an inconsistency, like someone not using the same identification, instead identifying it as ceramic ball, or if there are spelling mistakes in the identification, it would not pop up in your search. Cross-checking, checking, and rechecking your data, especially in digital format, is essential for a successful archaeological project. Always save multiple versions of your catalog. For example, every time I make changes to the e-catalog, I save a new version of it, both on my computer and on the cloud. This ensures that if you made a mistake or accidentally deleted some information, you can recover it from an earlier version. The process of cataloging in archaeology is extremely important, as it records information that is used for the identification of artifacts and organizes this information, making it easily readable and accessible. Labeling artifacts also ensures that the artifact or artifacts won't lose their provenance, which is key information for understanding the site. This provides vital information for the researchers who want to use this information in the future, like Dr. Monk. This allows Dr. Monk to easily pull information from a catalog, understand the information more clearly, and make big picture discoveries about the site. She can then share what she has learned with the public, which is arguably the most important part of our job. I hope this video helped you to understand the cataloging process while also informing you about the importance of record keeping, cataloging, and digitization on an archaeological project. Here are our Instagram and Facebook handles if you would like to follow us and keep up to date with the shipyard. Thank you.